The innocent question. The junior learning pod at the Galactic Youth Academy buzzed with the excited chatter of alien children. Young minds from across the cosmos gathered for their daily lessons about different species in the universe. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles, others sat on cushions of pure energy, while the more conventional ones used traditional seating designed for their unique physiologies. Teacher Orbthanks, a gentle floating sphere of swirling purple gas, was giving today's lesson about various peaceful species in the galaxy. The teacher's surface rippled with soft patterns as they projected holograms of different worlds and their inhabitants. And here we see the butterflies of Centauri Prime, Orbthanks said, showing beautiful creatures with wings made of living crystal. They've never had a single conflict in their entire history. Teacher, a small voice interrupted. It came from Piplik, a tiny blob-like child whose gelatinous form quivered with curiosity. What about humans? The classroom fell silent. Even the youngest children knew that humans were different. They'd seen them occasionally in special zones on space stations, always kept separate from military areas, always watched carefully by security drones. Orbthanks's purple swirls darkened slightly. What about them, dear one? My parent unit says we're not allowed to let them join our armies. But why? They look so small and soft. Are they too weak? A nervous ripple passed through the classroom. Young Zykski, a crystalline child, chimed in with their own question. My older sibling said humans are actually banned because they're too scary. Is that true? Orbthanks's surface churned with conflicting colors. The teacher had hoped to avoid this topic with one so young. But children across the galaxy were becoming more curious about humans and perhaps they needed to know. Children, Orbthanks began, their voice gentler than usual. What I'm about to show you isn't part of our regular curriculum. But you're asking important questions and you deserve honest answers. The teacher's form expanded, projecting a new hologram. It showed a human military unit from Earth's history, engaged in what looked like an impossible situation. They were surrounded, outgunned, in hostile terrain with failing equipment. Watch carefully, Orbthanks said. The children observed, first with curiosity, then with growing unease, as the humans did something no other species would consider. Instead of retreating or surrendering, they turned their very disadvantages into weapons. They used their broken equipment to set traps. They transformed their surrounding terrain into a deadly maze. They employed tactics that seemed to defy logic itself. But that's not possible, whispered Glopri, a young energy being. Our combat simulators say that scenario has zero survival probability. Exactly, Orbthanks replied, their surface now a deep, troubled blue. Humans don't accept impossible odds, they break them. When we run simulations of humans with our level of technology, the teacher paused, considering whether to continue. Show us, several young voices insisted. The next hologram made several children recoil in their seats. It displayed a simulation of a small human fleet equipped with modern galactic weapons. The simulation showed them defeating forces 10 times their size, using strategies that violated every known principle of cosmic combat. The Galactic Council discovered something terrifying, Orbthanks explained. Humans don't just fight wars, they rewrite the rules of warfare itself. Every limitation we place on them becomes a new weapon in their arsenal. Every disadvantage becomes an advantage. Little Piplik was trembling now. Is that why we keep them away from our weapons? Yes, dear ones, we don't ban humans because they're weak. We ban them because giving them advanced technology would be like giving supernovas the ability to think. They wouldn't just use our weapons, they would transform them into something we can't even imagine. The classroom had grown very quiet. The children were beginning to understand why their parents looked nervous whenever humans were mentioned, why security increased whenever human ships docked at their stations. But teacher, Zykski asked, their crystal form flickering with worry, what happens if humans find out why we really ban them? Won't they be angry? Orbthanks's form swirled with patterns of deep concern. That, my dear children, is what keeps the Galactic Council awake at night, because humans are starting to ask questions. They're beginning to suspect the truth, and when they finally discover why we've kept them away from our military technology. The teacher didn't need to finish the sentence. The terror in the classroom was palpable as the children realized the truth. Humans weren't banned from war to protect the galaxy from them, they were banned to protect them from themselves. Hidden horrors. The next day, the children couldn't stop thinking about what teacher Orbthanks had shown them. During their free learning period, a small group gathered in the Academy's Historical Archives section. Piplick, still quivering with a mixture of fear and fascination, had convinced the others to dig deeper. "Look what I found," Piplick whispered, their gelatinous form rippling with excitement as they accessed a historical database. "It's a sealed file about something called the Mars Incident." Zykesky and Glopri huddled closer, their crystalline and energy forms casting strange shadows on the archive's walls. The sealed file had been partially declassified, likely by accident during a recent system update. The holographic display flickered to life, showing footage from 30 years ago. A rogue faction of the warlike Drachnid species had attempted to establish a secret base on Mars, thinking the primitive humans wouldn't notice. They were wrong. Despite having no space combat capability, a mechanical voice narrated, the humans detected the Drachnid presence using what they called amateur astronomy networks. What followed defied all military logic. The children watched transfixed, as the footage showed human space agencies hurriedly repurposing primitive satellites and exploration robots. They somehow managed to turn simple research equipment into makeshift surveillance networks. When the Drachnids realized they had been discovered, they launched what should have been an overwhelming attack. The humans had no energy shields, Glopri noted, their luminous form dimming with disbelief. No plasma weapons, not even basic anti-gravity technology, just chemical rockets and simple projectile weapons. But that's when the true horror of human ingenuity revealed itself. The footage showed how humans turned their entire orbital debris field into a weapon, using mathematical calculations to redirect thousands of pieces of their own space junk into precise collision courses. They transformed their planetary defense weaknesses into an unprecedented tactical advantage. They turned their own mess into a weapon, Zykesky whispered, their crystal structure vibrating with fear. They used the very thing everyone criticized them for, their polluted orbit, as a defense system. The Drachnid ships, despite their advanced technology, found themselves trapped in a lethal web of debris, precisely calculated to intersect with their positions. The humans had essentially turned their entire orbital space into a giant shotgun blast, using nothing but math and primitive rockets to orchestrate a symphony of destruction. But what terrified the children most was the next part of the footage. It showed human military leaders explaining their backup plans, dozens of them, each more creative and terrifying than the last. They had been ready to use everything from modified mining explosives to deliberately triggered volcanic eruptions. They didn't just have one plan, Piplick observed, their whole form trembling. They had hundreds, like they'd spent their entire history thinking about how to fight beings more powerful than themselves. The archive contained analyses from galactic military experts, their conclusions marked with the highest security classifications. One report stood out. Human military doctrine appears to operate on the assumption that they will always be outgunned, outmatched, and at a technological disadvantage. Rather than seeing this as a weakness, they have turned it into their greatest strength. They don't just accept asymmetric warfare, they excel at it. Another classified note caught their attention. Most concerning is their ability to rapidly weaponize civilian technology. In the Mars incident, they demonstrated the capability to transform peaceful scientific equipment into military assets within hours. The implications of this ability, if applied to advanced galactic technology, are catastrophic. Glopri accessed another file, this one showing simulations of what humans might do with standard galactic military equipment. The projections were so alarming that parts of the file were completely redacted. What they could see showed humans taking basic defense technology and modifying it in ways that violated several laws of physics. "But why are we so scared of them?" Zykesky asked, trying to sound brave. "We're still more advanced, aren't we?" An older voice answered from behind them, making all three children jump. Administrator Vexther, their school's security chief, stood there, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming ominously. "Because, young ones," he said, his voice heavy with concern, "you're asking the wrong question. The issue isn't whether we're more advanced. The issue is that humans view combat differently than any species we've ever encountered. They don't try to match their opponent's strength. They turn their opponent's strength into a weakness." The administrator moved forward, his mechanical limbs whirring softly. "Let me show you something that's not in the official records." He interfaced with the archive system, bypassing several security protocols. A new hologram appeared, showing a human military training exercise. The humans had been given a simple puzzle: defeat an impenetrable energy shield. Instead of trying to overpower it or find a way through it, they found a way to use the shield itself as a weapon, reflecting and redirecting its energy back at the source. This, Administrator Vexler said gravely, is why we keep humans away from advanced weapons. Not because of what they'd do with the weapons themselves, but because of how they'd reinvent them. Every tool we give them would be transformed into something we never imagined possible. The children huddled closer together, their young minds struggling to process the implications. They had come to the archives looking for answers, but they had found something far more terrifying: the realization that perhaps the galaxy's fear of humans wasn't nearly strong enough. As they left the archives that day, Piplik asked the question that would haunt their dreams. If humans can do all this with primitive technology, what are they doing right now while we're keeping them waiting? The terrible truths. That night, none of the children could sleep. Piplik's gelatinous form kept shifting restlessly in their containment field, while Zykski's crystalline structure pulsed with anxious light patterns. But it was Glopri who made the discovery that would change everything. My parent unit works in the Emergency Response Center, Glopri transmitted to the others through their secure youth communication network. They forgot to log out of the classified database. You need to see this. Using their species' natural ability to transmit data, Glopri shared access codes with Piplik and Zykski. Within moments, they were all connected to a restricted military database, accessing files that no child was ever meant to see. The Titan anomaly, Piplik read, their form shuddering at the classified footage before them. The video showed events from just 15 years ago, when a human research station on Saturn's moon had encountered something that had crashed through spacetime itself. The footage showed humans facing a horror that had driven more advanced species to madness, a quantum anomaly that distorted reality itself. Standard protocol for such encounters was immediate evacuation and quantum quarantine, but the humans had no such technology. They should have died, Zykski whispered, their crystalline form trembling, or gone insane like the Proxima research team did. Instead, the humans did something that violated every known protocol. They approached the anomaly with primitive instruments, studying it not as a cosmic horror but as a puzzle to be solved. When the anomaly began consuming their station, they didn't retreat. They started experimenting on it. Are they insane? Piplik's thoughts broadcasted their terror. They're testing its reactions like it's just another lab specimen. The classified reports detailed how the humans discovered that the anomaly responded to conscious observation. While advanced species had fled from this knowledge, humans weaponized it. They developed a rotation system of observers that somehow contained the anomaly through nothing more than human perception and primitive measuring devices. Look at this note, Glopri highlighted a section of text that pulsed with warning markers. The humans didn't just contain the anomaly, they learned to predict its behavior. They started using it to test theories about quantum manipulation. The children watched in horror as the footage showed human scientists deliberately exposing themselves to controlled bursts of reality distortion, measuring their own physiological responses. They were treating one of the most terrifying phenomena in the known universe as a research opportunity. But the true horror came when they accessed the classified conclusions. The humans had not only survived the anomaly, they had learned from it. Their primitive understanding of quantum mechanics had advanced decades in mere weeks. They had started theorizing applications that the galactic community had never conceived. That's why the incident was classified, a new voice said, making all three children freeze in terror. High Commander Kelthos stood in the doorway, her multi-dimensional form shifting through shades of deep concern. She was the station's highest-ranking military officer, and her presence meant they were in serious trouble. But instead of punishing them, she moved closer, her form emanating waves of grim purpose. Since you've come this far, you might as well understand everything. Computer, display file Omega 7. The display shifted to show a simulation that made their previous discoveries seem tame. It showed what would happen if humans ever gained access to quantum manipulation technology. Unlike other species who used quantum tech for transportation or energy production, the simulation showed humans finding ways to weaponize the fabric of reality itself. The simulation suggests, Commander Kelthos explained, her voice heavy with dread, that humans would quickly learn to create localized temporal distortions as tactical advantages. They would find ways to use quantum uncertainty as a weapon. The very laws of physics would become their arsenal. The children huddled together, their different forms merging in shared terror as the commander continued. But that's not what truly terrifies us. Show them the psychological analysis. A new document appeared, its contents marked with the highest level of classification. It detailed how humans processed and responded to cosmic horrors. While other species retreated from the unknown, humans attacked it with curiosity. They didn't just face their fears, they studied them, cataloged them, and inevitably found ways to turn them into tools. The Titan anomaly incident proved our worst fears, Commander Kelthos said. Humans don't just adapt to terror, they master it. Give them access to advanced technology and they wouldn't just wage war. They would reinvent the very nature of warfare. Piplik, gathering what little courage remained, asked the question they all feared. Commander, the humans, they're still researching quantum physics, aren't they, even without our help? The commander's form darkened to a deep, troubled hue. Yes, and our latest intelligence suggests they're getting closer to breakthroughs we never imagined possible. They're not just approaching quantum manipulation from known scientific paths, they're inventing entirely new approaches. She turned to face the children directly. What you've discovered tonight isn't just about military capability, it's about a species that turns the impossible into the inevitable. And somewhere on Earth right now, they're getting closer to understanding why we really keep them isolated. When that day comes. She didn't need to finish. The children understood now. The galaxy hadn't banned humans from warfare to protect the cosmic peace. They had done it to protect themselves from a species that could look into the face of ultimate terror and see only opportunity. Unleashed terror. The next morning, the Galactic Youth Academy was in chaos. Despite Commander Kelthos's attempts to contain the information, news of what the children had discovered had somehow leaked. Emergency alerts flashed across every communication channel as parents rushed to collect their offspring, their various alien forms radiating waves of panic. Piplik, Zyxxi, and Glopri found themselves hurried into a secure chamber deep within the station. Through the quantum glass windows, they could see fleets of ships arriving from across the sector, their designs indicating high-ranking military and political officials. What's happening? Piplik asked, their gelatinous form barely maintaining cohesion from stress. We didn't mean to cause trouble. Teacher Orbthanks materialized in the chamber, their usually calm purple swirls now a turbulent storm of colors. It's not your fault, little ones, the humans, they've made a breakthrough. The timing of your discoveries couldn't be worse. The teacher's form projected a series of urgent transmissions from Earth. Human scientists had independently developed a primitive form of quantum manipulation. It wasn't anywhere near the level of galactic technology, but that made it even more terrifying. They had taken a completely different approach, one that no other species had ever considered. They're calling it quantum entanglement weaponry, a new voice announced. Grand Archon Xylos, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, entered the chamber. The ancient being's crystalline body contained swirling galaxies, each movement leaving trails of stardust in the air. The Archon activated a secure holographic display showing recent footage from Earth. Human military scientists had discovered how to create localized pockets of quantum uncertainty, using them to temporarily phase matter in and out of normal spacetime. It was crude, unstable, and incredibly dangerous, but it worked. Watch, the Archon commanded, pointing to a human military test. A simple drone, equipped with their prototype quantum device, phased through solid matter as if it didn't exist. The test ended in an explosion, but the humans were visibly excited by the failure, already discussing improvements. They've bypassed 300 years of standard quantum development, Commander Kelthos explained, joining them in the chamber. They're not following any known scientific progression, they're just experimenting, taking risks no sane species would consider. The children watched as more footage showed human scientists deliberately exposing themselves to quantum effects, using their own bodies to test theories. They treated potentially fatal quantum accidents as learning opportunities, each failure leading to new and more terrifying breakthroughs. The galactic community is in panic, the Archon continued, their voice resonating with ancient power. Not because of what humans have achieved, but because of what this reveals about their potential. They're developing quantum technology without any of the fundamental prerequisites we thought were necessary. A new alert flashed across the displays. More human research facilities were reporting quantum breakthroughs. They were sharing information globally, each discovery accelerating their progress exponentially. They had already adapted their crude quantum manipulation for medical experiments, manufacturing tests, and most terrifyingly weapons research. They're not even trying to weaponize it yet, Commander Kelthos noted, her form shifting with worry. This is just their standard research approach, but look at their simulation models. The displays showed human theoretical projections. They hadn't just considered weapons, they had imagined entire new categories of quantum-based technology. Things that violated the very principles of galactic science. They were theorizing ways to create temporal shields, phase-shift entire battlefields, and manipulate the quantum state of space itself. How, Zyxxi asked, their crystalline form vibrating with fear. How can they even imagine these things? Because, the Archon replied gravely, humans don't accept fundamental limitations. Where we see immutable laws of physics, they see challenges to overcome. Each barrier we thought would stop them has become a stepping stone instead. Suddenly, all displays flashed red. Emergency alerts screamed across every channel. A human research facility had successfully created a stable quantum tunnel, a feat that should have required technology centuries beyond their level. It's happening too fast, Commander Kelthos whispered. They're not just learning quantum mechanics, they're rewriting it. Every failure teaches them something new. Every accident gives them new ideas. They're turning the very laws of physics into their playground. The Archon's form pulsed with ancient power. The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session. The humans cannot be allowed to continue this research. The risks are too great. But Piplik's small voice quivered. Won't stopping them just make them more determined? Won't they see it as a challenge? The chamber fell silent. The children's innocent question had struck at the heart of their dilemma. Trying to stop humans would only drive them to find more creative solutions. Letting them continue meant facing a future where the impossible became possible. That's why we're here, the Archon said finally. You children with your innocent questions have forced us to confront a truth we've been avoiding. The galaxy's greatest fear isn't what humans might do with advanced technology. It's that they'll develop it anyway, in ways we never imagined possible. Through the quantum glass windows, more ships arrived, their designs indicating species from the furthest reaches of known space. The galaxy's most powerful beings were gathering, drawn by the terror of human ingenuity unleashed. And somewhere on Earth, unaware of the cosmic panic they were causing, humans continued their experiments, pushing the boundaries of reality itself, treating the impossible as merely another puzzle to solve. The price of knowledge. The emergency gathering of the Galactic Council cast strange shadows through the quantum glass windows of the children's secure chamber. Thousands of ships hung in space around the station, their combined energy signatures creating auroras of power never before seen in this sector. Piplik, Zyxxi, and Glopri huddled together, watching as the most powerful beings in the galaxy argued about what to do with humanity. The chamber's quantum feeds broadcasted fragments of the heated debate. We must shut down their research immediately, the voice of the mechanoid collective thundered through the feeds, before they stumble upon something that tears reality apart. And how do you propose we do that? Grand Archon Xylos's response rippled with ancient wisdom. Any attempt to stop them will only confirm their suspicions. They'll see it as proof that quantum manipulation is possible, and they'll work even harder to achieve it. Commander Kelthos's hologram appeared in the chamber with the children. There's more, she said grimly. Show them the latest intelligence. The displays flickered to life, showing recent footage from Earth. Human scientists had already detected the massive gathering of ships, despite their advanced cloaking technology. Instead of panicking, they were analyzing the distortions caused by the cloaked fleet, using it to further their understanding of quantum physics. By trying to hide from them, Teacher Orbthanks observed, their purple swirls darkening, we're accidentally teaching them about quantum mechanics. That's not the worst part, the commander continued. They're beginning to piece together why we've kept them isolated. Look at these research notes. The displays showed human scientists correlating various unexplained phenomena from their history. They were starting to realize that many of their scientific breakthroughs had come from studying anomalies that might have been caused by advanced alien technology. They're reconstructing our quantum theory from scratch, the Archon noted, stardust trailing from their crystalline form. But they're approaching it from angles we never considered. They're not just learning how to manipulate quantum states, they're developing entirely new theories about the nature of reality itself. Suddenly, all feeds went dark. When they reactivated, the chamber was filled with the projected presence of the full Galactic Council, the first time in history that children had been allowed to witness their gathering. "You young ones," the council spoke in unified voice, "have forced us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our efforts to protect the galaxy from humanity's potential may have been doomed from the start." New displays activated, showing a comprehensive timeline of human advancement. Every time they encountered an impossible challenge, they found ways to overcome it. Every limitation became a catalyst for innovation. Even their failures led to unexpected breakthroughs. "We thought keeping them away from advanced technology would keep us safe," the council continued. "But we failed to understand that humans don't need our technology. They're developing their own paths to power, ones we never imagined possible." Piplik, gathering all their courage, spoke up. "But why is that so scary? Couldn't they help us discover new things too?" The chamber fell silent. The council members looked at each other, their various forms radiating uncertainty. "Show them," the Archon commanded. "Show them the final simulation." The displays merged into a single massive projection, showing a future where humans had full access to their quantum discoveries. It wasn't a scene of warfare or destruction as the children expected. Instead, it showed something far more terrifying: humans teaching other species how to break the laws of physics. "This is what truly terrifies us," the council explained. "Humans wouldn't just use quantum technology, they would share it. They would teach others to see the impossible as merely improbable. They would spread their dangerous creativity across the galaxy." The simulation showed humans collaborating with other species, sharing their unique perspectives, teaching others to question fundamental assumptions about reality. The very fabric of galactic society would be transformed. "Their greatest weapon," Commander Kelthos said softly, "isn't their technology or their adaptability. It's their ability to make other species see the universe through their eyes, to make us question everything we thought we knew." The Council's unified presence focused on the children, which brings us to why we've allowed you to witness all this. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. We can no longer contain humanity's advancement. Perhaps we shouldn't try. "What do you mean?" Zykesky asked, their crystalline form shimmering with confusion. "We're going to try something unprecedented," the Archon announced. "Instead of hiding the truth from humans, we're going to invite them to join us, not as subordinates to be controlled, but as equals to be understood." The displays showed a new simulation, a future where human creativity was guided rather than suppressed, where their unique perspective was valued rather than feared. It was both thrilling and terrifying. "It will change everything," the council warned. "The galaxy as we know it will never be the same, but perhaps that's exactly what we need." As the children watched, a new alert flashed across all channels. On Earth, a human quantum research team had just achieved stable quantum entanglement at a macro scale, something the galactic community had deemed theoretically impossible.